be on cocaine to be on this podcast? Cocaine. Cocaine, really? Cocaine. Cocaine, really?
Holy crap. That is a banger of a new theme song for this hoop season.
God damn, boy.
Oh my god, I'm ready to rave right now. All right, what's up, everybody? You're listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie. As you can see, your fireball enthusiast Matt Marchesini is hosting today. We've got my fellow co-host, the good chef, Chef Andre Napier. Two-man show tonight. Our commish Bob Trollsby feeling a little bit under the weather. Best wishes to our boy. And we just had to get together to talk some hoops. Men's side, women's side, had some ups and downs in the past week. We could probably say that on the men's side, but it's been a pretty damn good week of basketball for the Kansas State Wildcats. Both teams beating a top 10 team at home. Let's start with men's hoops, though. We have 3 games to talk about since our last show. At West Virginia last week, at Texas Tech this past weekend, and then, of course, a Tuesday night banger of a game at home, number 9 Baylor Bears. Going down. Absolutely. An incredible game, which we will, of course, talk about. I do first want to talk about the West Virginia game. We'll get into the Texas Tech loss, but the West Virginia game, we went on the road last Wednesday, I believe it was Tuesday, but went on the road in a place where we have struggled to win in the past. West Virginia, consistently a tough place to play, no matter if the West Virginia team is good or not, and no matter if the K-State team is excellent or not. But we went on the road, beat up on the West Virginia Mountaineers 81-67 in a game that at halftime we were down. Down at half. Team did not look that great, but really turned it on in the second half and kind of came together in an environment that we knew was going to be tough. West Virginia, probably a team that is not going to be very good. They are right now 1-3 in Big 12 play. It's a team that's definitely still trying to find its identity, albeit they do have a good guard, Raekwon Battle, somebody that we had recruited from Montana State, who was finally eligible. And played very good in this game, even though we
first half
14 points, at least in the first half, of course. Our guy Cam Carter, 23 points, and really, he kind of turned it on in that second half. Had 15 of his 23 total points in the second half to pull away, beat West Virginia. I mean, Chef, this was a game that again, it wasn't looking too good in that first half, but the team kind of came together in the second half. Any thoughts about going on the road in Morgantown? Type of environment, that type of game, anything that spoke out to you about the Cats?
Yeah, Morgantown is always going to be one of those environments where it's going to be hostile because no matter how bad or how good West Virginia is, they're going to show out and the students are going to be on you and they're going to be chirping you basically the entire game. And it was we just came off a shellacking of UCF. So where was the team's head at going on the road? What was the road environment that we had went? LSU, Baton Rouge, and we came in there and we did basically the same thing that we did to West Virginia. We were struggling in the first half. Raekwon Battle. It was a weird game, weird ref game. A lot of fouls at the 3-point line, questionable calls on some of them, but we adjusted in the second half. We showed our toughness. Them missing pieces. You talked about having a team finally together for them. They're still missing their best player, arguably. Edwards, the center, we recruited him too. He's a legit 16-10 kind of guy every night. So him not being in the game, Will McNair showed out in the second half. He enforced his will on the inside. I think we won the rebounding battle towards that second half and shut down Raekwon Battle, who I think had 18 in the first half and then maybe 3 in the second half. So great game. Whenever you can get a road win by double digits, no matter how bad, because West Virginia, I think the next game that they played, they beat Texas. Well, that Texas win isn't aging very well, but horns down all day. But it was a good win because you could have easily slipped up because what the talk was going into that game, is that game mean anything to them? Because if you lose, it completely demolishes your season. You can't come back from a quad 4 loss or quad 3 loss, whatever they were. But if you win, it's a quad 4, quad 3 win. Does that do anything for you? But you came out on top and you did what you had to do. This team was solid that game.
Yeah, and I know one of the topics we'll talk about after covering these 3 games are some of the guys off the bench that are making a big impact. But I would have to say that this was the game that probably showed a lot of people that Dorian Finister is a guy that's going to be coming off the bench and playing meaningful minutes. He had 22 minutes in this game. And albeit from a stat sheet perspective, he's not a guy that is like lighting things up by any means. I mean, in 22 minutes in the West Virginia game, he was 3 for 4 shooting, had 6 points, but it's some of the things that he's doing on the defensive side and some of the things of kind of moving the offense around and gaining this motion in the offense. And quite frankly, Jerome Tang is molding Dorian Finister into a player that if you start at the beginning of the season, there's not many people that were going to say that Dorian Finister is playing 22 minutes in a meaningful Big 12 basketball game that was close.
Don't tell Dorian that. I mean, there's quotes at the beginning saying he wanted to start. So
no, I understand that. And it's not to be I'm not saying this at a detriment to Dorian Finister, but
absolutely not.
There are guys that you expected were coming in that would probably get, you would think 22 minutes a game based off of how some of the other quotes that we were potentially hearing and how Coach Tang was using RJ Jones and Day-Day Ames earlier on into the season. But from what you're seeing with Dorian Finister, Chef, you have to tell me there's a little bit of surprise on your end with this.
Absolutely. No, I mean, he wasn't on my bingo card. I think this team at the beginning, preseason, what were we saying? This team might not have the All-Americans that, we had last year with Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson, but this team is substantially deeper. It's a deeper team. But obviously 2 guys you were counting on go down. You don't have those. And now you're short a guard. And obviously, I mean, we're going to talk about future games where Dorian really cemented himself as the glue guy. But this West Virginia game, getting out on transition, those are things that he can control because he's not the best ball handler. He's not the best shooter. He's not the biggest wing, and he's not, the quickest 2 or 1. So what can you do as a teammate? Tang obviously goes on and on about buying in. And what did Dorian do? He gets off a scout team. He buys into his role on what he's not going to be a starter. We know that. But he's bought into these 20 a minute, 18-minute games where he could contribute, get a steal, run on transition. That's something that you can control. Defense, staying in front of your man, not fouling, contesting a lot of shots. And that's what he did versus West Virginia that really showed the K-State faithful what he can do and what to expect in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And those are some important minutes, especially on the defensive end where you're having to make some stops and gain a little bit of momentum and try and build a run. And it was really, I mean, he has really stepped up for this team in a spot that I never necessarily guessed would be happening. One other thing that I want to talk about this game before we go into the Texas Tech game. If I saw Tyler Perry, if I did not know the score of this game and I saw Tyler Perry's stat sheet, I would think we would have lost this game on the road. He was 1 for 8 shooting. He had 6 points. He had 5 assists, which is always good, but he played 38 minutes and we won by 14 points. We've seen a lot of ups and downs with Tyler Perry this season. Obviously, the game before against UCF, he went off. Going on the road, again in a tough environment, does not shoot the ball well. Out of those 8 shots, yeah, 6 of those shots were threes, and we went one. He went 1 for 6. Albeit our team went 31% behind the arc in this game, but it's hard for me to say this without coming off and being maybe I don't know, a little bit harsh, but Tyler Perry came in. A lot of people were saying, a great shooter, et cetera, et cetera. The UCF game shows that point, but you're playing 38 minutes in the game and you're not able to hit any shots, really. What this game concerned me for him.
Yeah, I mean, he even before the UCF game, was he the most efficient shooter? There was games where he would just disappear. I mean, not statistically, because he'll throw up a game where, and we'll talk about it in the future, a game that just happened where he's going 1 for 8 from the 3-point line or 111 from the field, but he's going to put up his 13 points, his 14 points and 5 assists, 2 turnovers, and he'd be out there basically the entire game. But like you said, it does concern you if you just look at the box score and you've got 6 points from arguably one of your 3-headed monster that need to score the basketball. It does give you a little chill down your spine to say, if we do that versus a good team on the road, you're probably not going to come out with a dub.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, to win a game, to win a game by 14 points and for Tyler Perry to have the stat line that he did, obviously you do need somebody out of those that 3-headed group, which you could probably say was David Gasson in this game, who had 17 points and looked excellent. But for me, Tyler Perry is going to be a guy that is automatically, he has a target on his back every game. And whether it's unfairly or not, based off of how things have been said towards him, I think he probably has more eyes on him than other players on this team. And so the thing that really showed in this matchup was, again, in a tough environment, going on the road in Big 12 play is going to be huge no matter what. We'll talk about the Texas Tech game here in just a second, but to get a win when one of those players is having such an off night, it is going to be important to have other guys step up. Now the bench, obviously Dorian had 6 points in that game. Nobody else on the bench had a point in this game. So a lot of offensive prowess was pushing towards the starting 5 in this one. Again, the Cats winning at West Virginia 81-67. Now Saturday, I would say even tougher environment to play in, Lubbock, Texas. A Texas Tech team that has been very hot. They won at Texas, which now Texas looks like ass. So maybe that win isn't as great. But anyway, this game against Texas Tech, you could definitely say another back and forth contest in the second half. But the first half, this K-State team, for a good 10-minute spell, looked like the Harlem Globetrotters and making a lot of shots behind the arc. They looked almost like UConn. I don't know. Trying to kind of compare it, but the second half, the last 4 minutes of the second half really doomed the K-State Wildcats in this one as they lost 60-59 on the road. Now, Tyler Perry, he had 16 points in this game. He was 5 of 15 shooting. Had some moments in that first half again where he was making some shots behind the arc. But offense really, you could say, doomed the Cats in this one. Scoring 59 points on the road typically isn't going to put you in a situation where you're going to be super competitive in a game. But Texas Tech shot even worse, which says a little bit about our defense. The last 4 minutes of this game put something, a little bit of a theme with this season, and this team can get into a spell. And I say team, not just the players, but it does seem like even from a coaching staff perspective, you get complacent with what is out there and you don't adjust and make changes. And that costs you late game situations. That is what concerned me in this one, all things considered. Is there anything that stood out to you, whether it's in the second half, whether, an overall theme that, just really like blared right down at you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing that comes to mind, it's really two things, but the first thing was turnovers. On the road, 18 turnovers. I think we had like 13 in like the first 13 minutes, which is bananas. You're not going to win. And it was really, we should have been cruising. I mean, we should have been crushing this team at the beginning of this game. Like, we were down 14-5 at one point, and I think that's when the run started, where I think it was nuts, really, because we went 8 of 13 from the 3-point line in the first half. And we had like 13 turnovers in the first half. If we get shots up as hot as we were in that first half, just getting shots on the rim because we were rebounding well in this game, it was literally transition and just giving live ball turnovers and just giving them the ball in the first half, especially, that kept them not defeated. Like, we kept them in the game. I know it was a 20-0 run, I think, to end the half, but man, it could have been so much more and so much. It wouldn't even needed a 20-0 run because we had to come back and we were only up 11 at half on a 20-0 run. Now, the second one that doomed us, I think, was coaching. I said this on my rant earlier in the season when we were struggling, where Tang believes in his guys so much that it's almost like an NBA model where, it doesn't matter how bad things are getting, what kind of momentum the team has on the other end. He will not stop the bleeding. He won't. He'll make this team work out. And whether that works in our benefit down the road, like letting the team work it out and let them grow up and work together as a unit and not rely on Coach Tang to, fix all the problems. But in that game and in that situation, both teams undefeated in the Big 12, vying for first place, you're hemorrhaging. You are literally hemorrhaging points away from this game. And no timeouts, we're slowing down. Like, we were doing so well with the turnovers and we just weren't moving the ball. And I think it was Coach Tang wanting his guys to do it. And that game is a little bit farther in my memory, but from what I remember, it just was not coached well at the end, if I'm being blunt. And
I agree.
no, and let's call a spade. That last possession, we don't draw anything up. I hope to God I'm remembering this wrong, but I think we ended the game with a timeout in our pocket.
Ooh.
We might have.
know.
I'm
to
not sure.
rewatch it.
But even if we didn't and we called a timeout for that last 10 seconds where, it's Perry, and this is not his strength. He wasn't shooting the ball particularly well, but this isn't his strength. ISO, try to get to the lane. I know he wants the foul, but a fadeaway just inside the free throw line contested is not the shot that you want, especially when you've got, there's so many more options. Cam Carter is a walking bucket. This is where he needs this is his game. He needs ISO. He can ISO. Kaluma can ISO with a pump fake and get to the rim. But it's just silly things like that. And you learn from those things, but I can't sunshine pump that one. Like, that one hurt real bad because we had that game. We should have won that game. Everything except for the turnovers was in our favor.
Yeah, we had an 8-point lead with 3:21 to go.
God damn it.
Which I am sure Baylor feels the same way about this game on Tuesday. But you're absolutely right. The complacency that we were kind of seeing and just this relaxed nature of holding a lead instead of maybe taking a little bit of a risk and trying to find opportunities to get
extend
it. And we've seen situations this season where, the Villanova game is an excellent example of a late game shot, putting together a play late game to put yourself in a situation to win.
And what's crazy about that one is that it wasn't even drawn up for Tyler.
No,
It was drawn
not.
up for Cam.
It
But
was not.
that's something that didn't happen in the Texas Tech game. Like it just looked out of sorts. And I know that's where you were going with it because it just looked out of sorts. It looked out of place. And it shouldn't even had got to that because like how you said, they took their foot off the gas. They're holding it in the corner till the shot clock was at 10 seconds and then trying to do a late pick and roll and more turnovers. And I mean, it was probably like 3 in the last like 12 minutes, but those were big ones if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, I mean,
that one hurts.
It hurts because, I mean, as we all know, a road win in the Big 12 is like panning for gold.
Yeah. Especially this season.
Especially this season where we know what our resume is at this point. At this point in the Texas Tech game, the best win that we've had on the schedule is the Villanova win. I mean,
pre-injury, it was Providence. Like
pre-injury, it was Providence.
It was looking good. Like we were happy for that one. Like how well they were playing after they played us. Not to get in resume talk, but I think I listened to the CBS guys, and they were saying we were 1-1 in quad 1 and 4-4 in quad 2.
Yeah.
No bad losses, but you're not getting the wins that you need. And a road win versus, a top 20, basically a top 25 team at the top of the 12 with you. Those ones you can't let them slip through your fingers. And it's just, man, oh man, you can never go back and get them. But man, those are ones that like a couple years from now, we'll probably be like, damn, what could have been?
Yep. And who knows how the rest of the games are going to lie. We've got 14 games left in Big 12 play.
Yeah.
And at the end of the regular season, we could be really kicking ourselves after this, or who knows? I mean, just depending on how the season plays out, that win could either not matter because we've lost 9 games or not matter because this team has somehow become Superman. And we're at the top, but I'm done with talking about negative.
That one's
negative.
I buried
things.
That one.
Yeah, because this game on Tuesday was exciting. I mean, that's a terrible way to even say it because it was better than exciting. The Baylor Bears, number 9 Baylor Bears, came to town on Tuesday. And a game which this Baylor K-State game now, because of the connection that Scott Drew and Jerome Tang have, I feel like this Baylor game for all of us is almost circled on the schedule just because of that. And this game really lived up as like ESPN classic for this season, right? K-State pulling out a nail biter, 68-64 at home in overtime. K-State was down 6 points in the second half and came back to tie that game up and was down 5 points with a minute something left in overtime and was able to minute like 30, minute 50.
Minute 12 I think it was minute 12.
Yeah. And was able to pull that out thanks to a prayer of a shot by Arthur Kaluma that also drew a foul. This game proved a lot about what I thought this team could be this season. If you've listened to this podcast early on, when we were talking about a preview for basketball, I said that I felt this team had the capability to finish top 5 in the Big 12. I said it. I know what in the Big 12, Kansas is an excellent team. We knew Baylor was going to be an excellent team. We knew Houston was going to be an excellent team. But I always believe that home environments create so much of an advantage that if you have a solid team and you know that you can win 8 of your 9 home games of Big 12 play and you can steal games on the road, and depending on your schedule, etc., you are in the running to finish top 5 in the Big 12. this game was not pretty for a majority of it, right? I mean, Baylor had a little bit of a good start in this game. I believe they were up like 8 points. In the second half, they kind of pulled and they were up by 5 at some point, and then you get up to, I think it was like 52-46 or something, 6-point lead. But K-State always kind of came back from a Baylor run, and this was a classic game of runs here. But the end of the second half was a complete opposite of the Texas Tech game, where your offense was coming together, making shots. But on the defensive side, we were limiting Baylor with good opportunities. And it was very evident because they shot so terribly from behind the arc. Kind of a different spin on how this season has gone. I think everybody knows from how our 3-point defense has been. But this team found ways to execute in a complete opposite manner of the Texas Tech game. And
hell yeah,
which was amazing to see. But the mettle that this team had at the end of the game was quite extraordinary, and has to be kind of, if you're thinking about what this team could be this season, this was the epitome of that. Would you agree?
I would wholeheartedly agree with it, because what have we seen ever since, basically the LSU game, start of the end of the non-con, start of the Big 12 season? It's defense. The team is kind of built on defense now. I mean, it's an homage to kind of a Bruce Weber style, like Frank Martin kind of nasty defense, where we're long, we're contesting every shot. And like you said, at the beginning of the season, people were just shooting open threes on us, no problem. Just, shoot around style around the arc. And we were just giving it to them, and teams were hitting them. But now I think we've created this mindset where we're going to battle, and we're going to you're not always going to be blowing out teams like we were at the beginning of the Big 12 season, because, this team is kind of Jekyll and Hyde on offense. But what we've, rooted ourselves in is defense. And our defense has been superb. I mean, we're holding teams to like basically 60 points almost every game. And you're going to be in almost every game with that kind of style. Now, will your offense deliver? Unlike Texas Tech, this time we were able to do that. And we held, I think Baylor was like the number one shooting team in the country in terms of like 3 points for how many they take. They were pretty up there. They could shoot the lights out, but their last few games, they were shooting near to 20s and like 20%. And we kind of did the same thing to them, where we're holding them. They were missing contested shots that they don't want to shoot, where they're off the dribble, because they're more of a spot shooting team. Bridges, he did his thing, but we forced him into some circus shots. But this team is, like you asked me, this is what we're going to get. And I like this style for this team with how this season has gone, where we're missing pieces. This isn't our full roster. So if this is how we got to do it, this is how we're going to do it. And I think if Tyler Perry ever wakes up, if Cam Carter's not in foul trouble, if Kaluma is cooking like he's been, we'll probably see what we got with UCF and what we got with West Virginia in the second half, in my opinion.
Yeah. Going back to your point, so Baylor is the third best shooting team from behind the arc in Division I, shooting 40% from the field. They're like 12th overall, averaging 49% from the field.
And that's right now.
Yeah,
before these 3 games that they just had in the Big 12, where they were like really close games. Oklahoma State. Who else did they play? BYU.
Mm-hmm.
These games, they weren't over 30% as a team. So they've gone down substantially, because they were shooting mid 40s damn near as a team from behind the arc. And when you tell me that as a K-State fan, I'm like, damn, we don't want that. But now our team is totally different. we're shutting teams down, and I love it. This game specifically, I mean, they could have hung their hat because they could have hung it up. They were up like you said, they were up 6 with 3 minutes to go. That's tough. I mean, with how we were shooting the ball and all that stuff, where are you going to find those points? I mean, I don't know, but they did. They've found a way to get in there. Baylor's making bonehead mistakes. And realistically, I'm watching this game in the kitchen, trying to get this loaf of bread out of my bread maker because, that's my new hobby now. I make bread. And so I'm trying to get this bread out. Their guard, for some reason, fouls Tyler Perry. They're up 1. They foul Tyler Perry. We're in the double bonus. I'm like, oh, this shit's over. They just sent automatic. They just sent 94%er up there. And what does he do? I jinxed him. I did the jinx.
That sounds about right.
No, I jinxed the hell out of Tyler Perry. He cold-hearted back irons that thing. It's like 12 feet it's like 13 feet in the air, how high that ball bounced off of there. And I was like, oh, damn. I hope this isn't a sign. But it wasn't, because overtime, I don't know what your emotions were like, but, I had to take a cold shower when we were down 5 in overtime. I'm like, I'm just going to, I had to take a cold shower. It was feeling rough. I wasn't happy. And I get out of the shower. I'm like, okay, let's see if we're down 8 or 10 at this point. I get out of the shower and my phone's propped up in the corner right there, right by my sink. I'm getting out of the shower. I'm butt naked. And I get out there. Kaluma, splash, and 1 from the 3-point line. I lost my mind. I almost died.
Yeah, I was on a plane for this, and he hits it, and I'm like, in my seat, pretty animated, which I'm usually not very animated when watching games, but
seriously,
I'm very quiet, unless I have some alcohol on me. But I think that's probably everybody. I just want to, before we do talk about the Kaluma piece, the adversity in this game, when we look at some of the starters, Tyler Perry was 3 of 14 shooting. He was 11 from 12 with free throws, was a team high 18 points. Cam Carter fouls out of the game in overtime.
That one hurt.
And when, Cam Carter has been such an exceptional player for us this season, when he fouls out, it has seemed, or at least in this game, when Cam Carter was not playing in this game, there were moments of, what are we doing with the ball? And who's going to be the go-to guy to make a shot? Cam seemed to be Cam, when he's in the game, he's an aggressive offensive player. Whether he's taking all of the shots is a question, yes, it just depends on the game. But there are moments when Cam Carter is not in the game, if he's getting a rest, where the offense doesn't seem to have a true identity. And so I was worried when he fouled out that would be the case, and guys stepped up. RJ Jones.
Wow.
I mean, an incredible 3 from the true freshman.
That's all you could say.
That's all. I mean, that is exactly all you can say. But Cam Carter fouling out. David Gasson, in a few moments in this game, was getting thrown around. It seemed like he was late getting up. Just seemed like it was a very physical game for him. So there were moments of adversity throughout this game, which made you think, even though it's a top 10 team, hey, we're not necessarily going to be winning this game. But the Kaluma 3, coming off of a Finister miss, I mean, that is the Arthur Kaluma that we've seen highlights at Creighton and making some of these bigger shots. And it's absolute onions making that. I mean, it was just an incredible shot that he made there.
It was, I got a lot of slack for, even comparing it to a Rodney Magruder shot that happened in Waco. Yeah, I know there were some circumstances around that. It was later in the season, basically sealed our Big 12 title game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm well aware of the history, but in terms of how I was feeling and where this team is at and what it can be, because you lose this game, you go down, you're not thinking about top of the 12 anymore. You're not thinking about it. What are we thinking about right now? Everybody at the top is 3-1. We're still there. Without that shot, and who knows where it will be in history and how it will finish. But if it finishes positively for us, where best case scenario, we do something magical, we're going to look back on this shot just the same way, in my opinion. So this shot for me, it was one of those shots that you'll remember for a while. Kaluma was struggling in this game. I think he had 6 points up until that point. We were relying on Cam Carter, like you said, and when he fouls out, Gasson was getting bullied, but I think we put a lot on his plate in this game and guarding more perimeter guys, because another unheralded guy that we haven't talked about yet is Jarrell Colbert. He comes in for this game and he puts on a kind of a show, but for his standards, he puts on a show. But Gasson isn't the usual like 10 rebound, 13 rebound kind of guy that we had seen previously in some games, because he's out there more in the perimeter with Bridges, trying to keep up with him. When Cam Carter goes out, the guys step up. RJ Jones, that is huge. Well, a lot of people are going to forget that three, but that is a three from a true freshman when he's another one of those guys that Jerome Tang specifically said needed to buy in. He was probably the last guy, because when Jerome Tang says you need to buy in, what does that basically mean after every story? He went on scout team. And I'm not mad at it, because if he went on scout team and he wanted to do that, he means he's buying in. He's getting out of that doghouse, because we hadn't seen him for a while. And RJ showed up and he did his thing. But Kaluma, that three was magic, man. That 4-point play, it made me scream.
Yeah. We'll remember that one, as you said, for a while. Kind of easing into the last piece of this. I mean, a top 10 win is obviously incredible.
Huge.
Huge for this team. How did this game prove to you anything about what this team could look like and what this team could do by the end of the Big 12 regular season, and maybe even looking towards the NCAA tournament? It's far away, but
it is far away. But like I said earlier, we've kind of found our identity, in my opinion, defensively. That we're gonna fight defensively. If we're out there, if this game happened where we're lax on defense, we're getting blown out. It is what it is. You can't have the offensive numbers that we have sometimes with some of our guys and expect to be in those games. So at home, I think the crowd showed up during a blizzard. So, and it was a late game. They showed up. They showed out in droves. Our home court advantage is going to be something to have to deal with for a lot of teams, and we don't see Baylor anymore, so that's nice. We don't have to go to Waco, and they can try to get their lick back. So this game meant so much for this season, because 3-1 right now in the Big 12 is so much different than 2-2, because Houston is still scratching and clawing from these games that they dropped early. We haven't done that. So getting a top 10 win, getting Baylor back to the pack, Texas Tech loses, getting them back to the pack, we're still on the road to doing something magical if we can, keep it up. Because we don't have the toughest schedule. In my opinion, we don't have the toughest schedule. I don't know if you want to go through all of them, but I mean, we got Oklahoma State twice. They are doo-doo. They're real bad. And I know we play them next. So maybe I'm eating my words, and I hope to God I'm not, because that one would hurt. But if they are what we think they are, those are 2 dubs right there. And you want those dubs.
Yeah, I believe in our next 14 games, we play 10 quad one teams in this the next 14 games.
So I mean,
So
those were just opportunities, right?
those are opportunities, but I think it does say obviously the strength of the Big 12 is very advantageous for us if we are able to pull out not just wins at home, but going on the road and doing completing those types of opportunities with a victory. I'm going to consistently say top 5 Big 12. I think this team, and I saw somebody had, I'm trying to remember where I saw this, but this team there are some comparisons you can make with this team from last season's team, because the non-conference schedule last season, we did run into a couple of games that you're like, what's going on here?
Butler.
The Butler game, obviously on the road. Like we beat a Radford team by 9 points, like things like that. Now, this non-conference season was a little bit average for us, I would say, just with maybe you could say a little bit above average, whatever. But there's a moment last season where the team kind of flipped a switch, it felt like, and came together, kind of gelled. And I believe this Baylor game
Could be the same.
Could provide a similar focus like that. So I'm gonna keep with my prediction, top 5 Big 12. But my other prediction, the Big 12 tournament, man, is gonna be wild.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. It is gonna be fun because you got teams that we don't see anymore, like UCF. Do you want to play UCF again?
I don't want to play UCF again. Which you couldn't have paid me $1 million to say that at the beginning after we beat UCF.
I think everybody had written them off once we beat them by 25, and it should have been more, but like they did not look like they were, a team ready. They looked like they were going to be deer in the headlights for this Big 12 season, but they've turned it around. They straight Undertaker came out of the coffin and is sitting upright, ready to go. And they're slaying dragons, even though, Texas is dog shit now, horns down. But golly, man, this Big 12 is tough. Like when I say that we don't have like the toughest road, I think it's just teams that we don't have to see twice. Because the teams we have to see twice, Iowa State, KU, those are probably the two toughest that we have to see. I'm not convinced that BYU is, like some killers in the Big 12. I'm not convinced of it. They could shoot the lights out, but
I think they're a team we're splitting with.
You think so?
I do, because a lot of people that listen to the show probably have not seen a BYU environment, but they have a top 10 home environment in the country. I'm serious about that. I think that's an extremely tough place to play. There's a reason why when I think of BYU coming into the Big 12, historically they've had a very good program at BYU for basketball. Yeah. And a lot of it is because they can maintain their home court. And so, I mean, Iowa State, a ranked team, went into BYU on Monday or Tuesday or whatever and lost by like 15 points. Yeah. So BYU, albeit they were 10th at one point this season, I don't think they're a top 10 team in the country, but I do think they're a top 25 team.
When you let Cincinnati come into your home, I mean, Cincinnati, they pull off some wins. They just beat TCU at home, but Cincinnati came into their gym, that home environment that you were talking about, and, bully balled them. And if the old moniker, you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And if BYU is slightly off from behind the arc, I don't see a reason why K-State couldn't beat them twice.
Fair. I've seen our 3-point defense in a good portion of the games this season, so it just seems like
but recently, and I can't say that our 3-point defense is elite by any means, but 3-point defense, a lot of it is just what you let them have. If you're letting them have shoot around kind of shots where it's not very contested or anything, a lot of teams can beat you by the three. But if you're contesting and making them dribble off the line, step back threes and stuff like that, a lot of teams aren't making those. I don't care how good of shooters you have. So if a lot of it's luck, a lot of it is what you're willing to put in. And I think, like you said, what kind of mindset is this team now, and what kind of team do you think we're going to have? I think we're built on defense and the effort on defense, because that's what we can control. Like Tyler Perry shooting from three, a lot of them, he's getting contested on a lot of them, but we have to have him shoot because the team is not going to lie. Why would they pump him up like constantly to say, keep shooting if he's not a good shooter? He's a good shooter. He's just not making them. And so I know that goes against everything that I just said, but eventually he will make them. I'm convinced of it.
If we're going to be top 5 in the Big 12, he's going to have to start making more. One last thing about men's hoops, because I think this guy does deserve a little bit more than 30 seconds of how well he played at the Baylor game. But Jarrell Colbert has, even in the limited minutes that he's had, morphed into a player that I do think a lot of us thought he could be after transferring in from LSU. And he's really shown in some of these past handful of games that his length really spells well against what Will McNair brings into his role in the starting five. I like Will McNair, and he's been very solid for us, and quite frankly has been way better than I thought he was going to be for us on a game-to-game basis. But I am of the opinion that in this 5-out offense that we are putting together, Jarrell Colbert could be due for more minutes in games, because I think he has the capability to be better in certain situations and running maybe pick and roll type offense, things of that nature. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I have a different opinion of Jarrell. I mean, it's all positive, because what you said, it could be right. And I mean, he might fit it better. I think Will is way more skilled around the basket. He's an excellent finisher. He can get his own bucket in an ISO post move. I love that about him. But he doesn't bring the athleticism that Jarrell Colbert does. He will never be able to run the floor like Jarrell Colbert can, because he is so long, skinny and fast. I don't know how his conditioning is, because I remember Dream Dowling talking about needing Jarrell Colbert to be more conditioned. I don't know how a guy like that is not in shape, but he runs and he can catch the ball. And if he gets a chance to dunk it, that was my biggest gripe with him at the beginning of the season. He was not dunking the ball. He has no touch around the basket, but if he can dunk the ball, he's very solid. And I love what he can do for this team, because his energy, rebounding the ball, blocking the ball. He wants to swat every block 3 rows into Bramlage's stands every time, which, I mean, if we talk to him and say, hey, let's just tap that thing, you don't have to swat it. Let's just go up there and touch the ball. It does the same thing. And it might be a little more advantageous for us to get the ball back, and for you not to get fouled and thrown on your head every other game where he's getting undercut because he's jumping 4 feet in the air and falling directly on his neck. But he's awesome. If he finds his role, similar to what Dorian did, and he finds his role where he knows, I'm going to get 12 minutes of just pure hustle. I'm going to run every time I'm up the court, because if you look at the centers in our league, if they're not hyper athletic like Baylor's centers were, they're big, horse hoof, trotting, just slow guys. They're skillful, but they're just too big. And Jarrell does something that a lot of centers in the Big 12 can't do, and that's run, catch the ball, and finish it. and swat the hell at the ball. So I hope that he finds his groove, and I hope he's bought into it, because we thought we were going to see what, maybe not. I don't know what we expected from him. What I expected from him at the beginning of the season. I've been such a big Jarrell Colbert fan that my expectations were probably way too high for him. But, yeah, I think if he buys into what we got from Baylor, that improves our team so dramatically that we don't have to play Gasson at the 5, and he can be out there guarding on the perimeter, because he is an excellent perimeter defender, and he can go in there to help rebound. So, man, he adds an element to this team that is, I mean, it could push us to places that we need to go.
For sure. I agree 100%. I hope he gets some more minutes. I'm not disparaging Will McNair. Will McNair is a very good player for us, but I'd love to see.
He makes some bonehead plays. He's a little fumbly with the ball, but
you could insert any person on the team's name into that conversation.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I mean, he's not doing anything to the team that hasn't been done by every other player. So,
yeah. Finally, from a men's basketball perspective, 2 games upcoming. Oklahoma State, who's 0-4 in the conference, we're hosting them on Saturday night. And then on Wednesday, we are at Iowa State, who is ranked right now, but I don't believe they will be at that point. 2-0. How you feeling?
Hilton's a motherfucker, man.
Hilton is. The Cats are 4-2 in Ames since 2017.
I remember us having a conversation, with one of our few basketball conversations, and us talking about like our schedule and what we expect. And I poo-pooed on the idea of Iowa State and, getting a dub there. I don't know. 1-1, it has to be 1-1. That is baseline. We have to beat Oklahoma State at home. I hope the fans bring the juice. I hope the team brings the juice and doesn't overlook them. But, we have a long time until that game. Well, not a long time, but you know what I mean? Like, it's the longer break in between these games of the weekday games. So I think we're going to be prepared for that. Iowa State, though, man, I don't know. I don't like the sound of Hilton. I don't like going there. I don't want to go there. So 1-1 is the baseline.
It's always flooded.
Yeah. We get a bridge in there.
Yeah,
1-1 is my baseline, but 2-0. If you do 2-0 and you're 5-1 in the conference, and you're a third of the way through the conference slate, and you're 5-1. I mean, I don't know what you do. I don't know where the excitement level is, because it's going to be through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I think 1-1 is probably where we're heading. I mean, 2-0 would be amazing. If we go 0-2, every single nice thing that we have said on this show in the past 53 minutes is null and void.
I hate that it's like that, though. I know, because basketball is so fickle, because it's built on a resume. Like, we're literally putting it on a block piece of paper, like, oh, this lost this. And you can't go 0-2 and expect us to be nice about it. You can't.
Nope. Especially to a team that has lost their last 3 games by 22 points a game on average. Insane.
That's one of those things where I talked about it earlier, what they were saying. Like, we don't have the marquee wins, but we don't have a bad loss. I mean, maybe USC is getting there, but you don't have a bad loss. And this one would be a very bad loss, and you can't have it.
Very bad. We'll see. I'm excited for both the games, but mostly the Iowa State game, because we do have a big announcement. Next week, we will be doing a live Cocaine Willie show streaming on YouTube for the Iowa State game. We will be us 3 together,
large and in charge,
watching the game. We will have a special guest along the way. So
maybe multiple.
I did say guests. So special guests along the way. We'll be taking your questions, and probably drinking, even though it's a Wednesday, but whatever. It's going to be fun. We will be sending out the link. So hopefully everybody listening today can join us on Wednesday as we do watch the Cats together. Now, I do want to set some time because we have to talk about the number 7 ranked Kansas State Wildcat women's basketball team. Incredible season that they're having thus far. Again, if you're keeping track, K-State, one loss this season is to number 2 Iowa in a tournament. Every other game they have won. They've looked really good in, I would say, a majority, if not all of their games. This past week, they won at home against Oklahoma by 17 points. The big one, though, was a home game against number 10 Texas, which the Cats did win 61-58. Horns down yet again. A huge game. This was one that especially circled for women, for the K-State women. A home game against a top 10 team and trying to basically gain respect. And this was a game where there were another game with a lot of adversity, but big moments that were made, of course, by Ayoka Lee, Gabby Gregory, Serena Sundell. A huge game, and they were able to win that one. And then the Cats were supposed to play last night at TCU, but TCU big fat forfeited that game and took my money along with it, which is what it is. But the Cats are 6-0 in Big 12 play, going into a 2-game stretch where they have the Sunflower Showdown at home. They're at Baylor next week, which I will be in attendance for, along with a lot of other K-State Texans. Will be fun. But Chef, this team right now projected to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. They play 4 more ranked teams on their schedule before the end of the regular season. Things are looking pretty good for the Cats if they maintain this momentum to be a regular season Big 12 champion. I mean,
it's not out of the realm of possibility. And this team is, man, I remember Scott Wildcat on an episode of Bosco's Boys talking about the future of the women's basketball program and how when Ayoka Lee decided that she was coming back, you penciled this in, and then Mittie pulled like some magic where he got players that just we usually weren't getting, and especially as depth players. I mean, what's her name? Ziona Walker.
Baller.
I mean, she is balling out of control. Like, as a depth guard, she is absolutely gluing this team together. It is so nice to see what she's been able to do, averaging 8 points, basically 4 rebounds a game. She's been great off the bench. You know, the Glenn twins up and down every once in a while, but you know what you're going to get from them. You're going to get energy. And then our 2 stars, they've got their own Charlie Hustle shirt, for God's sakes. You know, double teaming. It's double trouble. There, Ayoka Lee is, for my money, the best player in college basketball, the most dominant. Like,
that's big.
For me, she changes the game. I mean, defensively, offensively, you have so much attention thrown her way. I mean, she's going up against some of the best centers in the country, and she's kicking their butts, to be honest, on the boards, scoring the ball. Huge game. And I'm so upset for you that you didn't get to see them in person versus TCU, because that was going to be a slaughtering
bloodbath.
It was going to be a bloodbath. So it's nice that they did get the conference win in a forfeit, but I want to see this momentum building. So I don't want to see any more forfeitures. Who do we got next?
Yeah, so
Kansas.
Yep, Kansas is 2-4 in conference right now.
And they've got a really salty center too, who took down Baylor. I mean, I think she had like almost 20-20 in that game. Robinson or something like that. I'm not sure, but she's salty. So that's going to be a good matchup. But I think, win this Sunflower Showdown, then it's on to Baylor, and that is another marquee matchup that they're going. K-State's got the target on their back now. So we're at the top. I think, what is it, a 1-game lead or a 2-game lead at this point? No one game.
So we have a half game lead on Iowa State at this point. Because Iowa State's game against TCU on Saturday
Also
was
got
also
forfeited.
canceled. So we are a half game up on Iowa State and we're 1.5 games back from Oklahoma, who I believe probably plays tonight. But the Baylor game on Monday. So Baylor is 3-2 in conference. So they have already 2 conference losses, but this will be a huge showdown for K-State. If K-State wants to sniff potentially winning the Big 12, this is the type of game that they will have to go on the road in what will be a tough environment, as always, playing at Baylor and their new, whatever the heck it is, Coliseum thing.
Vertical stands. I don't know how they even watch games there. It's
yeah. We're gonna see.
I'm
gonna see.
Every seat is a nosebleed. So I don't know. That you win that game, you win these next 2, we're sniffing 1 seed.
100%. I mean, for anybody who is kind of keeping track in women's basketball, and I know it's especially with this team being number 7 in the country, I'm sure casual K-State fans are keeping track of this team, maybe not necessarily watching this team, which if you aren't watching this team, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your time, but I'll tell you, it is incredible to watch this type of team because although Ioka Lee is such a star, there are so many talented players around that aren't even starting in the starting 5 that are allowing this team to be successful. And so the ranked games that we have left, we're at Baylor. We are at Texas in early February, which will be, again, a very fun environment there. But then we go on the road at Iowa State, and then we host Iowa State. This schedule is very attainable for this team to win the Big 12. It very much is. This schedule is even more attainable for this team to be a 1 seed or a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And it is going to take a win on the road in Waco. It's probably going to take it may take a win on the road at Texas. I think if they split those 2 games on the road, you're in a good situation where if you can win the rest of your games, you're good. But Monday is going to be a very, very telling game as to see maybe how elite this team could actually be.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I shouldn't say one of those games. It's one of these teams. It's not like the casual women's basketball fan turning in. You're not going to see the same thing that you usually see. Every single player outside of Ioka Lee is a ball handler. They're all good ball handlers. They're all good finishers. This team can score the ball. Everybody's a threat to shoot, which is why I think this team is so well balanced with Ioka Lee starting at center, because you can't leave none of these women alone from the 3-point line or you're going to get burnt bad. And they're young too. I mean, to be honest, they're still kind of young. So it's fun to see. You know, I would tell. I'm not going to be the same as you. I'll tell you what to do with your time. Yeah, you should watch some women's basketball to support these Lady Cats.
Yeah, they deserve 100% of our support, especially as they go through Big 12 play. And look, I mean, this is a team. I will seriously say this: if you in women's basketball, kind of in recent years, you have to be in the top 8 to 10 teams to be able to even sniff a Final Four. I mean, it's also been, I mean, you have to be a top 4 team to even sniff a national championship. This is a team that looks the part of they could make it extremely far in the NCAA tournament and could make it to a Final Four. I mean, you could be driving to Cleveland for the women's Final Four and seeing the Cats there.
I'll be dripped out like Dream Dowling, gold chain with, repping, ready to go. Oh, where did they play? Are they playing that at Quicken Loans?
I mean, I would guess, right?
Oh my gosh,
where the hell else would you playing at?
There's not a lot. There's not a lot in Cleveland.
No, that's in Cincinnati.
So yeah, I might be up there. You never know, but that's exciting. It's exciting times. Just think of how much fun everybody had watching the women's volleyball Cats, make their run towards the end of the season. It's like that every night for the women Lady Cats in basketball. So, yeah, shout out to the Cats. Let's go. It's a great time to be a K-State fan of anything. You turn it on, we're highly successful on most of everything we do. So,
yeah. At 100%, if you are listening and you have the capability to go see the Lady Wildcats, which they're not called that, they are the Wildcats. But if you have any chance to go see the women's basketball team, whether in Manhattan or on the road, go out and do it. I know this weekend on Saturday, we're hosting KU, we're hosting Oklahoma State in men's basketball. Could be a good opportunity to see a doubleheader in Bramlage Coliseum. I will make one last note at Allison Renner. I'm in Texas. I tried to go to the TCU game. Didn't work out. I'm going to the Baylor game. So as a K-State Texan, I'm able to see the women's basketball team play as I was called out last week. Had to make that point.
There's no one listening anymore, Matt. So you're talking into, dead air. So whatever, we don't just
wow.
Fair
enough. No. Well, that's all that we were planning on chatting about today.
I had fun.
It's a great show.
It's a great show.
We miss Bob. We'll have Bob back next week.
Get healthy, Bob.
I know, Bob. Get your stomach ailment situated. Yeah, it could be bad over in the Bob Trollsby house. But for all of us here at Cocaine Willie, thank you for listening on the show, to the show today on your podcast feeds, watching us on YouTube. Again, do us a favor. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating, follow the show. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like. We love likes, and subscribe to the channel, even if you're not a K-State fan, which for this show, if you're not a K-State fan, you must be really diehard Cocaine Willie, or just into cocaine in general. But you can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, follow us individually. I'm at Matt Marchesini. That's Chef Andre Napier, at Chef Andre Napier, and Bob is at Bob Trollsby. Again, next week, we will be live next Wednesday on YouTube, watching the K-State Iowa State men's basketball game, providing our hot takes, answering your listener questions as we go. We're super stoked for it. But thanks again. Chef, lead us out.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
Yes,
we are all coke and no joke.
Walking country.
Horns down.
Right. Oh.